I think for me, before I encountered God, there was a lot of sadness, a lot of despair. I was quite heavily addicted to drugs, and it was just kind of a constant battle for me. And I think I was just kind of using it as an escape to get out of being able to be in the world, trying to escape my thoughts and what's actually happening. So I was studying secondary education, and most everyday life, quite frequently, most mornings would get high just to start the day, just because it was a fun thing to do at the time for me. And I guess it impacted the way I interacted with others. I kind of didn't really want to be around other people at the time. I just thought I wanted to be by myself. So midway through 2022, I met my university friends, and about 3 of those friends were, and still are, very heavily influenced by Jesus. They're Christians, and 2 of them in particular, they just continued sharing their stories with me. They shared how Jesus was able to influence them and move them from places of anxiety and pain into joy and healing. And they just continued sharing, and they asked me if I want to go to church, and I said no. I'm glad that Jesus has moved so well for you. That's not me. It's not going to happen for me. And yeah, so that was towards the end of 2022. And the first couple of days of 2023, one of the friends, she messaged me and she said, "I'm not quite sure why, but I think God has put me in your life for a reason." And about 2 weeks later than that, again, still quite in a place where I want to be alone, I want to be isolated. I was probably starting to become a lot more sober in my thoughts and my everyday activities. But about 2 weeks later, I was just lying on the floor outside my bedroom, and I just began to cry. I just began to cry, and I just didn't know what I was crying about. I just felt so lost and felt so isolated, and I just recalled the conversations that I had with this friend, and about them saying how Jesus had delivered her from anxiety. And I just called out to God and I said, "God, if you're real, I want you. I want to move in this space." And I just felt an overwhelming amount of peace. And about 40 minutes of just straight crying, I stood up and I just felt the world lifted off my back. I described it as someone had just walked up and taken my backpack off, and that backpack weighed everything to me, and I just felt so light at the shoulders. At first I was like, was that God? And then over the last couple of days after that, I was like, there couldn't be anything else. Who else could move? What else could move like that apart from what I know now as the Holy Spirit? So I reached out to one of my friends from university and I said, "Hey, I really want to go to church. When can I go with you?" And he said, "I'm in Canada at the moment. I'll let you know when I get back." And I think it ended up being about 2 weeks of him being in Canada still. And at that time I was like, I don't really want to wait 2 weeks. I think I felt I just experienced a miracle, and it seemed odd to be like, hey, let's just put this on hold for 2 weeks and then go to church. So that's when I decided, hey, I'm going to start I'll just go one weekend by myself. So I decided, I was like, well, how else can I find a church but Google? So I Googled churches near me, and I stumbled across City Lights, and I just went through their website, and the values that I saw, I was like, this aligns with what I believe in already, so why not give it a go? When I was looking at the City Lights website, I saw that there was free coffee from 9:30 to 10, and I thought, hey, I really enjoy coffee, so let's give it a go, let's try it out. I get there at 9:30, so like anxious driving in, pretty anxious getting ready, but I get there at 9:30 and I sit in my car for about 30 minutes and I look at the time and I see it's already 10 and I was like, well, I can't get a free coffee. So is it still worth going in, or do I just go home? Like, I'm not going to get my free coffee. Like, what's the point? And I just feel like something was like pulling me back. And I just thought, hey, like I've made it all this way. I might as well go in. I've had this experience, like there shouldn't be anything holding me back. So I very slowly get out of the car and I walk straight through and like, not ignore, but practically ignore like the welcome team. I say hello, just glide straight through, sit at the very back of the church. And I was like, okay, I'm in, I found my seat. That's all good. I won't talk to anyone and we'll get started and it'll be all good. And I think about 5 minutes into sitting at the very back, about 4 people from City Lights who regularly attend came over to me and just started talking to me, and just the conversations they just flowed really well. And they invited me to sit up the front, the second row, and I was like I sat at the back for a reason. So I joined them and I just thought, look, I'm here, I'll sit with them. And I remember the very first song was Firm Foundation, and to go to a church for the first time and everyone singing Christ is my firm foundation, and to think, I was like, oh, I can't sing this. And about 4 months later, I remember that song coming on and I just remember like belting it out. And I think that's like City Lights created an atmosphere where I could truly believe and truly sing that Christ is my firm foundation, that it's created this place that I believe that Jesus like died for me. He put his life on a cross and then he resurrected for me, like so that I can live and that he can be my center. I'm just so grateful for the time and resources that the people of City Lights have put into me. Pastor Andrew, other members of the church have just countless hours, like even money spent on like, hey, let's get breakfast, coffee, lunch. And it's just even those little moments of those check-ins like, hey, how are you doing today? Or, hey, I'm just praying about you, that I think really sets the tone of what City Lights and the people are about. It's a loving church for the city of Brisbane. And I think it's just the way they invest in people, it just creates change, and it's amazing.